All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How y'all doing? Good to see you. And thanks for joining me every day on the internet. We're live on YouTube, Rockfin, and on Callin. All right. Well, let's get into it. There is just an amazing amount. If I thought there was a lot before, there's a lot today. Amazing amount of flooding footage from various disastrous weather events all over the world. Start with this one from Typhoon Haikui, which is continuing to penetrate into southern China. Today, 188 millimeters of rain fell in Shatujiao, Shenzhen, in 2 hours, and the streets became rivers. Whoa! Don't lose control of that scooter, sir. I got a whole bunch of these, so we're just gonna look at how the weather of the planet is unraveling. As we move forward in time. But first of all, there are two simultaneous Category 5 hurricanes. One in the eastern Pacific. This is Hurricane Hova. And this is not going to affect anybody, it's looking like. Oh, sorry, can't see that. But I mean, this is just the eye of the hurricane with lots of lightning, etc. But this is in off the coast of Baja, California, heading westward. And then we have Hurricane Lee. Well, I don't know if Hurricane Lee is quite Category 5 yet. Is it a Category 5 yet? They're saying it's going to be a Category 5. Hurricane Lee explosively intensifying in the Atlantic this morning, well on its way to Category 5 intensity. And that's one to watch. So, yeah. Well, yeah, Allison, that's what we're here to do, is report on this news that seems like the mainstream media is very localized and just interested in the gossip, political gossip of the day. So, not interested in recording. Oh, geez, there's massive flooding going on in Greece, Turkey, Russia, pretty much everywhere. What could this possibly mean? And they don't want to cover it because they don't want to scare people into thinking about what's actually happening. It's easy to run the whole climate change as a hoax thing when you don't actually cover it correctly, right? When you don't give it its propers, then you leave this big lane open for people to go like, I don't know about climate change, and all the mainstream media is like, we see your skepticism and we'll raise it. This is in Chechnya in Russia. Some crazy storm footage going on there. They're also experiencing massive damage. Um, yeah, I'm gonna move through a bunch of these. I got more. This is going back to China. And we haven't even gotten to Greece yet. This is in Shenzhen. Yeah, thanks for the clarification, guys. Yeah, no, Lee is not a Category 5 yet, but destined, it seems, to become a Category 5. Okay, I think we got some scenes from Greece. Feeling like there is not much hope if people just ignore. This is from Matthew Todd. This is just all the way up to the rooftops underwater in Greece. Let's see. I wasn't going to go. Well, I have some more footage from China, but I guess I only have one more from Greece. But there's so many of these. I mean, I could spend the whole show playing these videos of flooding. Heartbreaking video coming from Palamas, Kardista in Greece. This morning, one resident says since 4 o'clock in the morning, the village bells have not rung. Don't know what this means. 112 has not been called. People have been overwhelmed in their homes. Right now I'm calling for help from the other side. My house is high. I have gone up high. Residents from the surrounding houses have come to my house. People have died, drowned. Directly in the opposite house, a man lived inside alone. I couldn't help him. His house fell. He was overwhelmed. I can't go find him. The dam of the cross has been broken. The water is coming with enormous speed. Every 10 minutes you hear a house collapsing. Many people are trapped. Sorry. Have to remember to show the video while I'm reading the post. Okay. This is Hong Kong. Few videos from Hong Kong. People getting absolutely wrecked in Hong Kong, China, and in Greece. Under the heavy rain of 150 millimeters in 1 hour, the streets have turned into a raging river. And more on Hong Kong. But nothing's wrong on the planet. Everything is fine. This is all normal. This happens all the time. And whatever you do, don't worry about it. Okay? Because it's definitely not coming to your town anytime soon. Everything's fine. Everything is normal. um, and in Texas, it's so hot, they declared a level 2 emergency for the power grid in Texas. Because the heat dome has continued on and on. The heat wave has continued in the middle of the country. Yeah. It's from yesterday. Texas Grid declares a level 2 energy emergency. Electric Reliability Council of Texas, known as ERCOT, the main electric grid operator in Texas, has just declared a level 2 energy emergency. They are urgently warning customers to limit power usage due to tight conditions, as Texas officials warn that rolling blackouts may be needed. This marks Texas's first power emergency since the deadly winter storm that struck in 2021. Well, if it ain't the cold, it's the heat that'll get you. And they updated. They said they've moved out of the emergency operations, but it's due to high temperatures, and millions of people are using too much electricity, causing the grid to possibly overload and black out. There you go. There you go. So what happens when it gets really hot, really, really hot, and, you know, air conditioning is seen as a human right, or at least something you certainly deserve because you have the money to pay for it. But there is no energy. There is no AC. Why? Because everything's shut down. Everything's overloaded, tripped. Oops. If you were relying on that AC to keep your body regulated or keep yourself in some kind of a state of good health, think again. And more likely that will be a more frequent occurrence as time goes on, I'm sure. All right, we're going to move on to, I don't know if did everybody see the Jimmy Dore interview with Cornel West? This segment is not only just about that, but it was interesting. I felt bad for Cornell a little bit there. Not that I think that Jimmy Dore was being unfair. I just think he ran into a bit of a weed whacker with Jimmy Dore, because Jimmy Dore is one of the few journalists out there that's going to hold people's feet to the fire when he thinks that they're on the wrong path, or when their message is, possibly dangerous or disingenuous. So in that, I appreciate Jimmy Dore. I do appreciate him. I felt bad for Cornel West because, well, he didn't really have a lot of good answers for what Jimmy Dore had to dish out. And so there you go. But it was interesting. It was exciting, Scott Andrews. Yes. Because you like to see real stuff like that. Not right. For years and years, we've been accustomed to, corporate crash test dummies on the news, right? All dressed up going like, well, what are your thoughts on the economy? Tell us what you think you'd like to do about the situation in Ukraine. Oh, well, great, right? Just serving up softball robot questions. And not, it's not really amounting to much of anything other than like a press junket for the said candidate. Just to say some canned nonsense, from their team, right? So it was interesting to see like a real interview, right? See somebody get in there and bam, 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 mix it up, give them some hard questions, some hard comeback, and they got a little heated in there. I was like, okay, yeah, this is how presidential candidate interviews should go. This is exactly how they should go. Should be a little bit uncomfortable. No, sir, I think that's wrong. What you're saying? What? You're pushing back on what I have to say? What? Anyways, it was interesting. But so, the one of the things that sparked this little riot, this little YouTube riot, was Cornel West calling Donald Trump a neo-fascist, and Jimmy Dore was like, "Who's the real fascist?" Right? Let's talk about what fascism is and what's already taking place in the form of fascism under the Joe Biden administration. Anyways, we'll listen to this. Jimmy Dore says fascism is already here. Biden is the biggest fascist in the country. This is from Revolutionary Blackout Network, by the way. The reason black and brown people are locked up is because of Biden. Yes. Donald Trump, admittedly pretty racist guy, but he wasn't the one that shaped the policies. He wasn't the one that shaped the whole 3 strikes stuff and expanded the for-profit prison system. He didn't do that. It was Joe Biden who did that. So, thanks, Joe Biden. Let's listen to this.
Fascism is very real. You don't think fascism is real in the country? We're living in it. We're living in fascism. But I'm talking about escalating in terms of intensity. It has since Biden became president. It certainly has escalated in intensity. They've censored everybody. They've crushed unions. They've started another war, and now they're saber rattling with 2 nuclear powers. I don't know how worse it can get. And by the way, he still hasn't let people out of prison. He still hasn't given student loan. He's still denying us health care. He's an enemy of the worker and a tool of military-industrial complex in Wall Street. There's no bigger fascist in the country than Joe Biden. The reason why black and brown people are locked up again isn't because of Trump. It's because of brother Biden. And Joe Biden is proud of that. He brags about that. He brags about the crime bill, and he will never apologize for it. So I'm just letting you know that I really want your campaign to pick up traction. This is the opposite way to do it. Who's ever advising you sounds like an infiltrator. But why do you keep saying advising? I'm thinking for myself, brother. I'm okay, I don't mean to insult you. That's not this question of advising. Okay. I don't know who's advising you. You thinking yourself. You're a free man too, aren't you? You're right. Okay, I was trying to put it in a nice way. I use that kind of language, my brother. You want to be respectful? I'm trying to be respectful. That was my. I appreciate it. Okay. I know it look like hard sometimes, but I appreciate it. But we just have disagreements on these things. Again, if I undermine the campaign for you, then you're free to have your own view and vision. Okay. And people are free to listen to you and be persuaded or not. And okay. I've got mine. I'm listening for your insight. Absolutely right. No doubt about that.
All right. We're going through a few videos here. Let's see. So he's also saying, he's talking about when you call Trump a neo-fascist, you're just inviting everyone to say, "Oh, this is, it's really bad. We can't have Trump again," and that, lesser of two evils. Come on in. That's where the lesser of two evil argument comes in. Anyways,
that when you do that, you sound a little bit like Joe Biden, and what you're doing is you're giving a pass to Bernie Sanders and anybody else for voting lesser of two evils. So you're endorsing the Democrats' message in their campaign. And so now people can dismiss your candidacy and say, well, we got to worry about the neo-fascism of Trump, as if Joe Biden isn't worse, which he is. He's a bigger fascist. And he just crushed a union strike on the railroad, which is the definition of fascism. He's now trying to saber rattle with two nuclear powers, nuclear war, nothing more important than that. And what he's doing in Ukraine, you know exactly what he's doing, right? So he's the worst warmonger in the world. 300,000 Ukrainians have already been slaughtered in this proxy war that was provoked by NATO, which you know. So when do you think that when you say that about, when you call Donald Trump a neo-fascist and you don't say that about Joe Biden, what do you say when I tell you that you're undercutting your own campaign and you are propping up the Democratic message, which is that they are the lesser of two evil and you have to vote for Joe Biden so we don't have fascism? By the way, we already have fascism. As we all know, fascism is the joining of corporate and government to screw the worker. And that's exactly what Joe Biden, the Democrats, and Pete Buttigieg did. And so they will keep doing it, and they're not stopping it. And they're also for censorship, which is the hallmark of fascism. So this idea that Donald Trump is more of a fascist than Joe Biden undermines your own campaign. There's no doubt about that. And so what I would encourage you to stop doing that. What do you say back?
yeah, couching everything in, well, our biggest threat is the neo-fascism of Trump. Actually, is a misdirection, right? It's a misdirect, and it actually gives cover for the fascism of Biden. Biden is clearly more fascist. I mean, Jimmy Dore said it, and I've said it, and plenty of other people said it. It's clear since Biden has taken office who the more fascist is. Only Biden gets away with it. Why? Because he's a Democrat. Because nobody pushes back. Because everybody's like, well, at least he's not Trump. But everything's getting worse. We're doing far more horrible things under Biden than we are under Trump, right? Far worse things are happening under Biden than under Trump, But that's a great cover, right? Oh, well, at least he's not Trump. Well, wait. Yeah, he's not Trump. He's worse than Trump. What do we do with that? Where do we go from there? What's the choice then? Obviously, for a lot of people, right, people are going to try to make it like, well, we got to vote Trump back in, right? Oh, we got to vote Trump back in. We got to do something, right? Which is, again, giving us these terrible choices. So there you go. Yeah, it's, again, the lesser of two evil, there is, one of them isn't better. It just creates, a series of situations where you're just getting worse and worse and worse, right? And I have, let's see, last two elections I have voted Green. At least presidentially, voted for the Green Party. Will I vote for the Green Party again? I don't know. I don't know where I'm at yet. I don't know who's going to be in the race. I don't know, what's going to be happening. But there's more signs that things are getting much worse under Biden. Now they're sending depleted uranium to Ukraine. All right. Yeah. That certainly isn't fascist at all. Revolutionary Blackout Network. Again, you have to be a complete fool to think that psychopath Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils compared to anyone. Retweeting this, the U.S. is preparing to send depleted uranium munitions to Ukraine. Biden administration just gave $700 to Hawaiians who lost everything. Florida went through a devastating hurricane. The economy is experiencing a silent recession. It's, I don't know if it's very silent. I think everybody understands. I mean, things are pretty bad. Things are pretty bad. All I've heard from a lot of alternative news outlets, journalists out there, is that monetary support is way down, meaning that everybody is feeling a big pinch, right? People, that usually have some discretionary income or, some extra money lying around to, support their favorite, local podcaster or, news outlet, don't have that money anymore. So, and, if you believe the fiscal reports from the administration that, well, inflation is going down. Of course it's not going down. If you're alive, if you're a human being and you go to the gas station and you go to the grocery store, you know for sure that inflation is not going down. On top of that, Joe Biden is overseeing a truly historic dismantling of the social safety net. Again, under a Republican or Trump, people would be howling. But under Biden, people are like, is this really happening? Right? They're confused. They're like, what? I don't know. I think I heard about that. I'm not sure. Joe Biden is overseeing a truly historic dismantling of our social safety net. With Democrats like this, who needs Republicans? So these are things that are ending under Biden. Eviction ban, extended UI coverage, additional UI benefits, foreclosure ban, child tax credit expansion, EITC expansion, free school meals is ending ended in 2022. Emergency food aid, all these things are ending. Emergency food aid, Medicaid expansion, student loan pause, that's ending this year. Student loan pause ending this year. Child care provider grants ending, and the WIC increase is also ending. Also, he is pushing yeah, you're right, Poppy. All those were benefits that were handed out during COVID, and he's taking all of them away. So it is a little bit like, oh, okay, but they're expanding the privatization of Medicare. That's happening under Biden. Again, if this was happening under Trump, people would be like really loud about it. Oh my God, what's going on? Oh my God, but under Biden, crickets. Nobody talking about that. Also, a lot of people have lost their SNAP benefits. SNAP is food stamps. And that was not linked to COVID. Here's some other craziness coming out of the Democratic Party. So the Democratic Party thinks, this is from RFK Jr. The Democratic Party is saying that Joe Biden will not be on the primary ticket in New Hampshire. And any delegates that anyone wins in New Hampshire will not be counted at the Democratic convention. So they're literally going to lock out people, anybody, any challengers, they're going to lock out from the convention. The delegates they win will not be allowed into the convention. If you campaign in New Hampshire, any votes you get in Georgia won't count. What? Either. Any votes you get in Georgia won't count either. Wow. The Democratic Party is literally banning candidates from campaigning in New Hampshire, and even if you win delegates, they will not be allowed to enter the convention. Blatant fascism from the party currently running the country. Let's listen to this.
And then the Democratic Party is doing a bunch of things to make sure that I can't, that even if I win more votes than Joe Biden, that they won't count. Oh, the Democratic Party thinks that I may win New Hampshire, so they've removed Joe Biden from New Hampshire, and they say that if any candidate, they've passed a rule that says any candidate who actively campaigns in New Hampshire, at the delegates they win, will not be allowed to into the convention. And that now what they're saying is they're going to extend that so that if you campaign in New Hampshire, which I've already done, that any votes that you get in Georgia won't count for you either. And what? Yeah, this is what they're doing. So I don't know, then my name won't be able to appear on the ballot in Georgia if I campaign in New Hampshire.
Wow.
That's what the DNC is up to now. I mean,
but I thought Democrats are saving democracy. This seems like the opposite of democracy. This seems like totalitarianism.
It's not a good template for democracy.
So there you go. I mean, we do have two corporate parties who run the show. They are hand in hand in this. So again, I'm not. I am clearly not saying that the answer is vote for one or other of these people. That is not what I'm suggesting is the answer. Okay. Okay. And I have voted for neither candidate, for the Democrat or Republican candidate in the last two elections. I think it's just the last two elections. So, again, I'm not endorsing one side or the other. I'm saying this is, we're spiraling down. And as you may have heard let's watch. There's a few more. I'm going to play a few more clips. There's a Jimmy Dore clip, another Jimmy Dore clip with Cornel West on COVID. There's another clip about they're indicting in Georgia the Cop City protesters under the same act. The same grand jury is indicting that indicted Trump is indicting the Cop City protesters, and there's a little report on that from Nico House. So we're going to go with that. One, real quick, if you appreciate the show, these are some of the best ways to support the show. Oh, I forgot to say, Denver, thank you for the tip. At the very end of the show, Denver Attaway gave me a tip on Rockfin, so I appreciate you. But you can support me at paypal.me/Kevin Sandbloom, Venmo at Kevin Sandbloom, Cash App at Red Llama Music, buymeacoffee.com/BlackBearNews. You can also super chat me or super Ray me. Super Ray is a Rockfin tip, or Patreon is also. Oh, Poppy, I did get your donation, so thank you. Just a few more clips I want to play. Let's see. Jimmy Dore brought up COVID, and Cornel West was saying, like, well, COVID is not important. And he was like, big fat medical experiment on people is not important. People losing their businesses and losing their homes and losing, their livelihoods, that's not important. He brings up some really good points here, kind of pushing back on the COVID is not an important subject to talk about. Jimmy Dore versus Cornel West on COVID starts promising, then ends in complete disaster. Here we go.
Exactly what was the level of corruption that took place during these years, be able to see not just the text, we know the books are out there, but they have a truth commission so that we can see what voices were marginalized, what voices were pushed aside, and make sure it never happens again. I resonate with the spirit of what my green, and as important as the issue of vaccines and the COVID situation was, when you say that's probably the most important issue in your lifetime or in the last 25 or 30 years in light of all the wars, in light of what Palestinians are going through, in light of what workers are going through. 63% I'm living paycheck to paycheck in terms of all the vicious attacks of the police and the murders and so forth. And yet this vaccine issue is the most important thing. I say, okay, that's my dear brother Jimmy. He's got a right to raise his voice. I'm not going to in any way push it away, but I just live in a different world. As important as vaccines have been, if I had another chance, I'd be leaning much more with the Black Caucus. But what I think of the weightiest issues, vaccines does not come immediately to mind. It just doesn't. That's the kind of world we live in, brother.
Okay.
Maybe I spend,
Well, here it is. Black business owners collapsed by 41%. Black business because of lockdowns. You care yet?
Well, no,
70,000 workers in one state were fired because of vaccine mandates. When are you going to care? Do they all have to be trans? When are you going to care about these workers? When are you going to care about this? When are you going to care about this?
They have to be trans for me to care.
You don't care. You don't care. Why don't you care about this?
Why would you accuse me? Of course I care about it.
You're saying it's not important.
I didn't say it wasn't important. I said it was not the most fundamental issue in my lifetime the last 30 years.
Forced medical experiments? Forced medical experiments? The scheme?
Where's the nuance?
Oh my God. So you missed the story and you're not interested in getting it right.
You agree with Jimmy Dore.
So you missed the story and you're not interested. Well, Dr. West, I wish you the best. You know I love you. You know I support you.
And your precious wife.
So, what they missed in that clip before that was the Black Caucus of the Green Party. The Green Party is the party that Cornel West is running for. The Black Caucus put out a statement decrying vaccine mandates. They said, this is wrong. This is absolutely, against all ethical standards. This is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They put out very famously put out a statement against vaccine mandate, and so Cornel West is running in the Green Party, and so Jimmy Dore brought that up, like, hey, what do you how do you feel about this? And Cornel West said, well, I don't think it's that important, and I don't know. Anyways, it was a very interesting time. Let's look at this from Nico House, talking about the Cop City. I will check in on all the platforms, guys, before the show ends, and in case I did get any donations, I will be sure to shout them out. So, thank you. Let's see. This is Nico House. The same jury that recently indicted Trump just indicted 61 protesters associated with the Stop Cop City movement. Right? They're labeling them domestic terrorists. If you protest the government, you can and most likely will be labeled a domestic terrorist. Constitution be damned. He does a good report here.
RICO charges have officially been brought against 61 people in Atlanta. And no, we're not talking about Young Thug and his YSL gang. We're talking about 61 protesters who were brought up on racketeering charges for trying to stop Cop City. Now, the project unaffectionately known as Cop City is a training facility for police officers and firefighters that's being built on 40 plus acres of land in a forest nearby Atlanta. So this is problematic for a lot of obvious reasons, but one of those reasons is because it was originally supposed to cost the taxpayers of Atlanta $30 million. But what people later found out is that there was a little provision hidden in the amendments that said that they were going to pay Cop City $1.2 million additional dollars per year for the next 30 years, which obviously means the project is actually going to cost closer to $70 million rather than $30 million like the taxpayers originally thought. Now, some of you may be thinking, if they didn't want Cop City, why didn't people go and protest the city council to make sure that it didn't happen? Well, ladies and gentlemen, they tried that, but the process was described as largely undemocratic. For example, the doors to City Hall didn't open until 2 hours later than usual. Although normally it would be allowed, police did not allow food or drinks inside the building, and they kept people waiting outside for hours. And even though the city council knew that there were hundreds of people waiting outside, waiting to voice their opinion on the situation, they passed out one sign-up sheet to ensure that people were left out of that conversation. So naturally, when people feel like they've been cheated out of the democratic process, that usually leads to protests and organizing. Now, the RICO case wants you to believe that it's the protesters that are being violent, but the evidence shows otherwise. Take Pies Tehran, for example, who was killed by a state trooper once police invaded and raided the protest area. Now, the police and the media and the politicians immediately went on to say that it was because Tehran shot first. And despite the media running with this story, the autopsy release showed that no observable residue was found on Tehran's hands, which means that he couldn't even have fired a gun at all, let alone had been the first one to have fired the gun leading to the cop ultimately killing him. So what it seems like to me is that the only conspiracy going on here is between the cops, the city council, and the media trying to hide the lies that keep getting exposed in order to protect their own interests. For the proponents of Cop City, they couldn't rid the nuisance by rigging the democratic process. They couldn't do it by literally killing a protester. So now it looks like they're going to use the justice system to bully the protesters by using a statute designated for domestic terrorists and international drug dealers. And this sets a terrible precedent going forward, because if they get prosecuted, then you can't gather as protesters in order to stop your government from doing something that you don't want them to do. Because if you do, then now you're a domestic terrorist and you could be brought up on racketeering charges.
Ding, ding, ding. And all sides are getting it. All sides are getting it. You could be a January 6th protester. You could be a Trump supporter. You could be a Cop City protester. You could be a environmental protester, a pipeline protester. You will be labeled a domestic terrorist and dealt with accordingly. Just understand that, especially when you're cheering on the other side being prosecuted, right? Oh, those, right? I've seen right-leaning news outlets say that these Cop City protesters were communists and they were George Soros backed, and right? I was like, okay, you weirdo, you ridiculous dude. You even know what's going on there? You know, you're upset about January 6th protesters being harshly treated, but you're okay with the government going after these people. This is the problem. This is where the problem starts. When you're like, yeah, get those January 6th, those guys, they're insurrectionists. Go get them. You're just saying, come get me the next time I protest. That's what you're saying. Go ahead, suspend the Constitution. Go ahead, suspend the rights, civil rights of everyone to protest. No, they have a right to protest, and they were not, nobody brought any weapons. And same with the Cop City, right? They're trying to rail railroad the Cop City protesters into being terrorists, and the other side, the right wingers, or anybody who thinks that anybody, climate change is a crazy in a cult, right? So go ahead and write the goofball right winger on Twitter who was like, yeah, arrest the climate change blockaders to Burning Man. Get them, arrest them. What you're saying is, come arrest me the next time I protest. Just trying to think that one through before you get on Twitter and go, yeah, get them. Both sides are in a deep misunderstanding of what is really going on. It's unfortunate. There's so much, disinformation, misinformation, and, I don't know what you want to call it. Just, there's so much tribalism going on, right? That we're allowing things to unravel in the name of get the other side. You get they're the bad ones. That you don't understand that when you allow that to happen, when you say, go for it, suspend free speech, kick people off social media platforms, shut those guys up, that you're saying, shut me up as soon as I'm the bad guy, as soon as the spotlight turns to me, boom, spotlight, you're the bad guy. Now you get shut up. That's where this is going. And there's people on both sides encouraging this kind of stuff, and it's wild. What's up, William? How you doing?
Kevin, can you hear me okay today?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we got to remember the National Defense Authorization Act, of course, is all about arresting people for the supposedly domestic terrorism or potential domestic terrorism. Remember that one? The NDAA? That was 2013. So that Chris Hedges challenge. So this totalitarianism is just, keep going on one step after another, taking away our rights, and it's unfortunate. It really is sad, but you're right about all that. What I wanted to mention real quick, because I know we have a short time at the end here. I couldn't come back in to talk about Lahaina when you had mentioned. I come back in. I had a lot of personal things, so I put a bunch of stuff in the live chat. Is tomorrow a good time? Will you open up the room? Friday. Tomorrow's Friday, right? When you do the calling.
Tomorrow is Friday. Yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah, tomorrow's good. Yeah.
So I put it in there for you to reference. Dr. Peter McCullough has a Substack on it, as Dr. David Martin. It's all about land reappropriation and the gross negligence. Well, we right. Talked about some of it already, but there's a question of where are the children. There's school buses missing that were supposedly. There's all kinds of,
There's lots of that stuff going on for sure.
Oh, it's nuts. It's absolutely. Yeah. But so regarding RFK Jr., so is he read the tea leaves yet? Is he going to run as independent? What's it take? He has no chance on the Democratic ticket. They made that very clear. I don't know. Do you think he might jump?
I mean, he's in a tough spot, right? Because, hold on one second. He's in a tough spot because he's already running in the Democratic Party. So, does he make himself? I think. Personally, I think he makes himself look better. Where does he jump to? Does he just go full independent? Which is, I don't know what's harder to jump to. Try to jump onto another party ticket.
Right.
Where would he go? Right. The Green Party already has Cornel West. I mean, I actually suggested that they do a double up. Cornel West and RFK Jr. would be an interesting ticket, right? Because the visibility would be high, and it would be, they could kind of come from two different sides, right?
Oh, I think that'd be an excellent idea.
Yeah.
I think they both have strengths they could bring in to help one another. I agree. I'll quickly comment on the Jimmy Dore interview. I understand Jimmy's passion, and Cornell, I don't know. I heard him on Sabby Sabs, and it was disappointing. He's like living in a foregone era of politics, even where he doesn't seem to understand what's. I don't know what to say. It's just perplexing. I understand Jimmy's upset, and when you're talking about a vaccine mandates and mask mandates, it affected us societally, systemically, entirely. From that the biggest medical fraud and abuse of power and tyranny that's not letting up because they got the next one already pre-planned out, the catastrophic contagion.
Well,
It's
and
not
it's
done.
it's also interesting because I don't know why I'm getting this all of a sudden. It's also interesting because it was kind of a big deal, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the last 3 years, people's lives were upended. It was kind of like such a major calamity, if you will, right? It was world shaking, right? It absolutely, we shut everything down, and it's just interesting to hear somebody say like, well, this just isn't the top of my list. Like, okay. I mean, I get that there are other subjects out there that are important. You know, I get that there are other subjects out there that are important, but like when you're talking about, this thing that happened that absolutely consumed 3 years of our lives, right? And you're just like, well, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, what? And it was the blueprint. It was kind of the the template, if you will, for like the future of technocracy, right? They're laying down the tracks, to drive the even bigger fascist train down the tracks, right? They're laying down those tracks. So what you want to do is stop those tracks from being laid down. And yeah, I can't hear you. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, the World Health Organization international health regulations are going to be passed in the end of 2024 unless the U.S. pulls out, basically. Yeah, and that what that's all about, right?
Yeah,
So the IHRs. Yeah. So yeah, this is the beginning. So for him to be that out of touch, not to mention people lost their jobs, people lost their businesses, people died, people had vaccine injuries for something that has now the Ioannidis et al. Report, the infection fatality rate from 0 to 69 of 0.095%. It's not even a pandemic by the numbers.
Right. Yeah.
And there was I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really, I know a lot of people just want to move on, as if it didn't happen, but it's kind of a big deal, right? It's kind of a big deal, and there's that's what I think they want people to kind of have this a bit of a, I don't know what you want to call it, like zombie mentality around it, and just like, whoa, oh, that was weird. Okay, anyways, let's go forward and hopefully everything will work out, right? Like you're right. Cornell is a little stuck in a bygone era. Even, he's stuck in 2016, right? He's stuck in Bernie Sanders land, and we've moved on. We've moved way on since then. There's been some major shifts in the Overton window, and major shifts in people's understanding of what's going on, and major shifts in the quote unquote deep state has been trying to get over on people. So I don't know.
Well, I know you want to run. Let me just add, consider Besnamov demoralization, destabilization crisis cycle. That's a totalitarian two-step. You see what I'm saying? It's actually a three-step. Sure. It just advances. That's creates a what do they call it again? A mass formation psychosis, where people then turn to their abuser, the government, for answers, help. Right. You know what I mean? We need help. We need help from the next pandemic. Pandemic.
And that's what I was. When I was saying I was talking about I don't know, the other day about the momentum of trying to get everybody, into the idea that, what was going, trying to get everybody kind of in line, in sync with what they wanted everybody to think about what was happening during COVID, right? There was this
Yes.
definite kind of like propagandizing, like heavy, but it was all on the back of like, oh my God, there's something really scary out there. Everybody be scared, right? And now 3 years later, everybody's kind of people have had enough time to kind of go, oh, okay, I see what's going on there. I see it's not the thing that they were telling us. So to try and bring it back is going to be difficult because there's already momentum going the other way, right? Like you needed that kind of like shock and awe kind of thing to happen in order to get people on your, into the psychosis. And now a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are snapping out of it. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, I see what, some way earlier than others. But there's too much momentum going in the other direction for them to go like, how about some more COVID? Okay. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, well, the point is, though, this is a trial run. The next one, it's going to be a Marburg-type virus, bleed-out, Ebola-related. You watch the catastrophic contagion. They got several scenarios. This has all been tabletoped out already.
I know, there is a lot of like, they tried the monkeypox thing, and I'm still like driving around LA and I see billboards for get your monkeypox vaccine. I'm like, if you believe that story and have actually gone to go get your monkeypox vaccine, like what what's wrong with you? Because like you are seriously deluded, or at least properly brainwashed into thinking like, oh, that's a real thing. But like most people were like, nah. I'm not going down the road with this monkeypox bullshit. So most people were like, yeah, okay, no, I'm good. Like I'm good on that. But like we'll see. They're gonna try, but you're gonna have to try something. It's gonna have to be pretty major. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Other people are saying that they're gonna have to do something else, like world war. War with Russia or war with China, something super big like that. I don't know.
Well, it could be a combination of things. It's like you're on a football team. You have multiple prongs of attack, multiple plays, and you have so you have different defenses. What I'm saying is that quickly. Sears is one of the other options for catastrophic contagion, severe epidemic and terror virus respiratory syndrome, which is supposed to be related to polio, give kids brain damage, and polio. So that may be one they attempt to roll out. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but on the other hand, it may be, well, if you want your job, you have to get vaccinated. Or you got to wear a mask, or you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It could be something like that. And before we were taking out the greatest generation, you're killing grandma, grandpa. If you didn't go along with this, next it's going to be the kids. Anytime you bring the kids involved, that touches a deep nerve of that can really rock people and then turn on others. You see what I mean? That's the psyop. Once you say, do you remember Kuwaiti incubator babies? The woman was supposedly a nurse. She turned out she wasn't. Yeah. Ambassador of Kuwait, our daughter. Well, but at the time you couldn't tell people different. You see what I mean? It was babies.
Well, but that was the same thing, right? All of that was from the incubated baby thing that was going into Iraq after
Desert Storm.
Right. The first Iraq War.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That was effective then. It was effective then. In the second Iraq War, all that stuff, came from 9/11, right? Shock and awe, right? Oh my God, right? And that was really effective, very, very effective in getting everybody into the psychosis, for long enough to go like, okay, well, whatever we gotta do, let's go get him, let's go get those guys, right? And then after a while, people were like, well, I don't know if I believe this anymore, but it was already too late, right? 8 years later, and then you have a financial collapse, and you just keep rolling out the calamities. But like
exactly one thing after another. Speaking of 9/11 coming up soon, Monday,
I know.
Right?
Yeah,
the anniversary. And by the way, real quickly, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You want to say something?
I was just gonna say I don't know whether to even acknowledge it. I mean, I always acknowledge it internally, but like I don't even know what to say about it this year.
Well, it's
Yeah.
about demonizing the Middle East Muslims. That's the whole agenda, which is a total fraud because the bottom line is Osama bin Laden was it
Because
Tom Osman or
we
Tim
supported
Osman?
all of them. They were all our creations.
Hello.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And Taliban, Al Qaeda, Taliban. You think we left those weapons behind in Afghanistan by accident? No,
No.
that's the Taliban. That was John McCain's army, known as John McCain's army. And then now they're where? They're in Ukraine for help fighting the proxy war with those weapons, Kev. So that. Yeah, because it's all run by the banksters anyway. It's the right-left duopoly, same
Yeah.
scenario over and over again. And so what we see, going back to the presidents, we see this, flop, flop, flop. It's the open window just keeps moving. The totalitarians keep getting more and more severe.
Yeah. Well, they're people are waking up though. People are waking up. Hey, William, I got another call, so I'm gonna let you go. I'll take this call real quick, and
all right, thank you, my friend.
Yeah, take it easy.
Yeah.
All right, what's going on? Who is this? Henry? Oh no, or Harry. Harry said no thanks. Okay, maybe Harry was not planning on calling. All right, guys. You know what? That's the end of the show. Let me check. Let's see if I have gotten any super rays or coffees or anything. Did get a super ray. Thank you, DB Cooper 3. He said, tip me $5 on Rockfin. Hi, Kevin. Bye-bye, brother Cornell, Dr. West. We know who pays your participation in corruption. Come clean, man. That's what he says. Thanks, DB Cooper. Appreciate ya. And before I get out of here, we'll check see if I got any other messages. But thank you all, everybody who supports the show. I do appreciate you, and you know who you are. I think that's about it. That looks like it. But thanks, guys. We'll be back tomorrow at the regular time. The regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We'll do a Friday, the Friday thing we do. And until next time, peace.